Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. We're taking a trip back in time today. We're going to work on a Pflueger. This is a Pflueger Bond, and it almost looks like a Pen number 9 reel or a Pen 10 reel, one of those. It's a level wind reel used for deep lake or saltwater fishing. This one seems to be working for the most part pretty good. The line guide is not in the track. That should be in the track over here. For whatever reason, that's not. But it just seems like it's, well, like it needs a cleaning, and it's a little bit tired, needs some grease and oils. But I did do a quick check on this. There is a spool that's working. It appears to be a minor crack in the side case. We should be able to get away with that. You'd probably never find one of them. But otherwise, it seems like it's a survivor. And we're going to show you how this reel was made. And we're going to do that by taking it apart, doing a complete servicing on it, and getting it back out to Keith so that Keith can take it fishing. So as I take off the exterior parts, I'm going to start by the little tie-down cap and the handle screw. And while I do that, I'm going to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. Thank you to all the 19,000 folks that have subscribed already. We're on our way to 20,000. I appreciate each and every one of you who tune in to watch fishing reel service and repair videos, as well as learn a little bit about who the manufacturers are or were, how those reels were used, and kind of a little bit about all things fishing. So if you do that, I would appreciate it. And if you do, please hit that notification button so that you can see the videos as I post them, and you can make a determination as to whether you want to watch that one or not. Or work on all kinds. Today we're working on a classic one. And Pflueger was one of the very earliest of the manufacturers. Ernest Pflueger was, I believe, a watchmaker before he was a reel maker, and it was all the way back in the early 1900s that he set about making fishing reels. And then he had his 4 sons got involved in it, and his 4 sons actually, well, they created a brand called 4 Brothers. And Pflueger eventually went on to sell out his interests. He sold them to Shakespeare. And you'll see things like today's model, the Pflueger Presidents. They're owned by Pure Fishing, who also owns Shakespeare. But you'll see a model called the Pflueger President. And interestingly enough, before the merger, the President was the brand of Shakespeare, and they transferred that brand to the Pflueger name. Well, I just took a moment to clean up that chrome after all these years, and my guess is this reel is probably 1960s, maybe 1970s, but the chrome is still going well. So I use a little bit of a metal polish. In this case, I'm using an automotive metal polish from Turtle Wax, and that seems like a good abrasive level. And I just use a little bit of 4-0 steel wool to kind of spread it around. Well, this one's not hard to figure out which side is front and center and which one is not. The indented center here is the back side, and that's to keep some of the water from getting into the drag surface. Well, this is a good time to tell you, if you don't know the reel, and I don't know this reel, if you don't know the reel, take pictures along the way at critical points so that as you go to reinstall, you'll be able to determine the order or sequence of the parts in case you got lost. Well, here's your drag collar, and it's got a little spring in it. That one's interesting. I haven't seen a spring inside of these. I see springs as tensioners in other places, but most of the time you'll have a little tension washer. This one has a tension spring. Very interesting. We'll remove that. That's for the drag washer sensitivity. Don't lose it. Probably will never find that part again. And then we can see some drag washers in the assembly below. Yeah, that crack comes all the way back to here. But again, it shouldn't impair the performance of this reel. And these plastic or Bakelite type side plates were kind of infamous for cracking like this. Generally, they would hit a pillar on a boat or a pier, and that shock would eventually shatter the piece. All right, there's a bunch of 5 cross posts and reel seat screws. We're going to try and start by taking those out. If you have any questions on this reel or any reel in particular, maybe you're working on one and you're stuck, if you leave that question in the comment section, I will try to respond to you. Try to give you an answer if I know the answer. If I don't know the answer, well, I'll try and point you. And hopefully we can get you back on track if getting on track is what you need, and get you some more information if it's just a general question about, well, a particular brand or the time that a reel was made or which one is a better reel and those kinds of things. Well, as I take these screws out, I'm making sure to note if they're all the same length. And I just mentioned that because the reel seat screws are usually less in length than the others. Okay, well, we were able to remove those two smaller ones. I just note that those go into the reel seat. This is the reel seat as opposed to the crosswind bars. All right, let's just see. This whole thing should probably just pull out. It does, and it looks like a relatively simple mechanism inside, so we're going to go ahead and see if we can't take this off to service it. I need to remove the side plate to do that because I noticed that the main gear is nestled behind that trim ring. So I'm just going to very gently pry it off with a screwdriver, and you can see that down below there is that main gear. All right, I think we'll kind of do a couple of different things all at once. How you work on the reel is your preference. Some folks like to work on the cosmetics first, some like to work on it last. I kind of do it as I go. That one didn't shine up much. I think that's just some kind of base plating on it. That's okay. I'll remove that spool. Do the same thing here. We have a little bit of just old salt or accumulated tarnish that's on here, and again that metal cleaner works well. There's a nice metal polish out there on the market. It's called Flitz. If you happen to have the opportunity, you can go to flitz.com. They make a metal pre-cleaner and a polish that will really restore a lot of the luster to fishing reels. I use it. You may be interested in using it as well. All right, and then we'll just quickly we'll run our steel wool. These are pretty clean pieces here. Just going to run it over the sides to see if we can't make that work. So underneath here, you're going to notice we have a metal drive that's turning the worm gear. We have the click mechanism, and here's your tension for the click mechanism. And that click is going to bounce off the rigid gear in the back end of the spool here. So since this is metal, we can lubricate metal to metal, and I'm going to use fishing reel grease to do that. The fishing reel grease that I prefer is Penn precision reel grease, and all you need to do is I'm going to grab a brush, if I can find my brush. There it is. This is the grease, Penn precision reel grease. The reason I prefer it is it works on all kinds of reels, and it comes in a 1 pound tub, and I use a lot of fishing reel grease, so instead of buying these 2-ounce containers all the time, 1 pound tub seems to work better for me. However, if you have just 1 or 2 reels, go ahead and buy that smaller capacity and buy it from anyone you like, so long as there's fishing reel grease made for fishing reels. All right, we just greased all that up and put the spool back in so I don't lose it. All right, this has got an interesting little mechanism for the free spool release. I'm going to just check it out just to make sure I understand how it works. It's got a cog. There's a pin here, and that pin runs in the groove and out of the groove. And I assume if I want to remove all of that, I can by pushing that pin through. And we're going to start by removing the bridge and see if that's necessary or not. Again, this would be a good place to take a picture, because if you don't know what you're going to find underneath, for example, where is that anti-reverse and how is it working? Well, this is a good place to take that picture before, and then we'll see what happens later when we go to reinstall. All right, so these have a short screw there. These are the 4 bridge screws that we saw come through. That one is also short. Sometimes they're short, sometimes they're long. This may have the anti-reverse on the bridge, or it may have the anti-reverse nested like a pinwheel. We'll find that out. There's one place where folks tend to get a little bit confused when they're working on their reel. It's that anti-reverse. Seems to do a lot of folks in. There's 4 of the same screws. I'm going to take them. I put all my pieces and parts into a parts tray. That's just so that I know where to go when it's time to go. Alright, we're going to push that bridge through. And that's an interesting little approach there for that dog. So we have this is why I come gently with this, we have a bent spring that's going to put pressure onto the dog. Here's your dog. The dog, fortunately, appears to be kind of welded to the, or pinned in. Or just laying on a stud. It's kind of hard to see here. We'll find that out in a moment. I think it's just laying there. And this one should have a pin holding it in, but I'm not seeing the pin. Usually these are pinned in. I don't see that, so we're going to have to leave that alone. I'm going to go ahead and oil the shaft for that. We're going to use a little bit of penetrating oil to clean up the grease on the sides of it, and we'll use a cotton swab to clear that up. Make sure that it's all clean so that nothing runs in its way. Clean the top of that as well. We're going to find out, this is the front side. We're going to find out what goes underneath. Underneath we have a series of drag washers. They appear to be leather drag washers. They are, and surprisingly, they're in good shape. If these were bent or cracked or broken or didn't have the flexibility, you would want to go ahead and replace them. Those look very close to the pen drag washers for the pen spinning wheel, so you might not need to be exact. If you go into replacement, all you really need to do is make sure it fits inside the cavity of the main gear and that it fits without any tension or torsion or anything like that on the stack itself. Looks like we also have one that nestles underneath here. Okay, let's clean the main gear. You want to clean the teeth on that. You do that with a wire brush by pulling through on it. You can use a hard bristle brush, you can use a wire brush. Just want to make sure that all those ridges on the main gear are free of any kind of dirt. If you have any questions, find a little micro screwdriver, go ahead and pull your way through there. That's what I'm going to do across this one now. There's not that many teeth. And wipe it off as you go through so that you don't drag it back into the next groove that you're trying to clean out. There's a couple of pieces where it's old. Funny, I was just doing a video on using dental tools as a tool in my kit bag. Probably can do it. It feels like you're cleaning teeth here. Yeah, well, you are cleaning teeth, but not human teeth. Alright, that seems to have gotten all the rough stuff out that I couldn't brush out. That didn't take very long. So let's go ahead and we're going to repack this gear. I'm going to push this down here, see if I can move that. I can move that pin. I'm going to take that pin out so that we can get the rest of that. So you have a pin here that's holding that gear in place. That's creative. And don't lose track of your pieces and parts. I have them on the table here, but my mind just wandered over to that other piece. Let's finish the main gear. We're going to use some drag grease on these drag washers. Dip it in. I'm going to use my gloved hand to kind of twirl it around there. I did notice that we have one hard washer that goes underneath. So I'm going to take care of that right now. And I'm going to put the main gear on. It's just easier to get the washers on with the the gear in place. You have two of these. These are called keyed washers. One goes high, one goes low. You need to make sure they get seated properly into that main gear. Take the second one of these. Now if these had lost their flexibility, if they were rigid or cracked, then you would have to replace those. And again, I think at this point you're not going to find the drag washer for that. What you would want to do is find a substitute that is close to it. Alright, that's the third one of those. And now the second, the one with the pointed parts, the washer goes in the middle. That's called an eared washer, if I didn't say that. And we have that, and then we have this kind of an interesting piece here. It's going to hold your spring. It's kind of like a lock washer. And then when we go back, we're going to make sure that that goes in place. I removed that so I could do the cleaning here. I have that pin right on my table. Be careful when you take the pieces and parts off. If you are not careful, well, that thing goes missing, and you either go on a treasure hunt or you kind of give up, because I'm sure that pin and that assembly are not going to be available unless you find a donor reel somewhere. So Pflueger, I don't remember the exact date that Pflueger went out of business, got absorbed in by Shakespeare, but parts support and main branding kind of have left us since then. So I had a fellow, we've been corresponding, he's been looking for some replacement parts for a spool on a Garcia 9600 reel, and he was optimistic that he would get a reply from the current Mitchell group, which is Pure Fishing, and their reply was, we don't have the schematics or the pieces or the parts that you need. So a lot of times as these businesses change hands, it's only going forward models and the like that are supported. Alright, so I checked the pinion gear. On the pinion gear there's a slot that faces out. And we're going to see if we can't line the rest of this up now. Sort of get interesting. There's two springs nestled underneath here. I'm going to put this back in the way we found it, push down, and through. And we need to line up a hole in the assembly. And I found it's much easier if you set that other piece inside and pull that pin down until it's centered. Now we're good with that. Don't worry that your pinion gear fell out. That's not a problem. And now we can take our gear that has been cleaned, our drags that have been reset, checked, lubricated, and reset. See, I didn't find that pin in that gear sleeve. That's okay. This one's turning nice and free and easy. If it wasn't turning free and easy, that would be a concern. And right here, that's not a concern at the moment. All right, we're going to show you this anti-reverse. I think I captured enough of it to know it's going to go this way, that spring, and it's going to wrap to put the tension onto this piece right here. So let's see how we do that. That ought to be interesting. Got the bridge in place. And this is going to require me to think upside down. So this one is going, I believe, is going to snake in here. There we go. Let's see if we got it. We do. What a surprise. So there was a little stud that followed the track of the piece and came through here to lay down. All right, let's go get those 4 bridge screws then. These are always fun. Like I said, that seems to be the unwinding of a lot of folks. You just sometimes have to have a little patience and just kind of, well, best guess it sometimes. That was my best guess, and it seems to have worked. I always try to think when these things are going on, how would they do it in a manufacturing plant? They can't do anything that would require you to do anything extraordinary most of the time. Sometimes I think designers don't talk to the folks that are putting them together, but most of the time there's a little technique to it. I'm sure that wasn't the exact way that it was put together, but a little bit of logic and a little bit of luck, it is the way that it came together here. All right, 4 bridges are in. The last one isn't in. Sometimes these are tight tolerances, and you just have to back the screws off. Don't tighten them all down until the last one is started. Sometimes they just get a little askew, and then you can't get that last one, but I think we just did it here. There we go. All right. Tighten that down, tighten the rest of them down. Check the anti-reverse to make sure it's working. Fresh drag washers there. Yep, we have our anti-reverse working. Come over to the line guide next. As I mentioned, there's different ways you might want to service your line guide first. Maybe you want to service it last. Doesn't matter, as long as you service all the pieces. So much about the art of reel repair is just servicing, paying attention to parts, inspecting them, cleaning them. Put some oil on it. This thing seems to be working fine. Some oil on it. Okay, after you've oiled and cleaned your line guide assembly, it's time to try and put it all back together again. Now these, for whatever reason, these are always balancing acts. There is a square side on here that belongs in your worm drive, and you need to approximately line up the groove on that main top in the carrier, something like that. You want to next go with the short side forward on your shield, and then you need to aim the studs of the shield for the 2 holes. This is essentially how the assembly will come together. Again, it's kind of a balancing act. I've removed the side for the stud to come through just to give me a little play. We'll come over the top. Seat the spool shaft in. And then we want to align your line guide through that hole and your points of your shield so that you're square. That looks pretty good. All right, let's try putting a couple of side plate screws in, see if we've pretty much got the alignment correct. I can see why whoever it was popped out this line guide didn't go to put it back in, because, well, it's not an easy task. Alright, we're going to leave that a little loose because we're going to want to make sure that it doesn't have the tension on it. Okay, got it started. Let's tighten that in. And now we'll take our spring assembly next. That's going to give you the tension on your drag washers, the collar. Those of you playing along, you should be remembering these pieces. That's the other advantage to having the parts tray. If you're looking into your parts tray and you still have parts in there, then, well, you're not done. If you need to hold that main shaft while you're putting this on, A screwdriver through the center with enough tension on it will do. Next up is the screw here. This is American made. Before a lot of the factories were sent overseas, this is actually a SAE standard as opposed to a metric wrench. This is a 9/16. And the collar goes next. Tie down screw and a final test. And Keith will have his reel back, ready to go fishing again. I think he said this may have been his grandfather's reel. Not sure. All right. Let's give it a ride. Riding good. We want to make sure we're in the track here for that. Now we can tighten that down. It's amazing what a little bit of grease and a little bit of, well, elbow grease will do, keeping it clean. Eventually you'll get it. There we go. All right, this is your Pflueger Bond. We have our free spool. Imagine that's a little tight. It is. Look at that, nice and easy. That turns all these years later with just a little bit of grease, a little bit of effort. Beautiful reel. Beautiful reel. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. If you did, please like it. Again, if you want to see more of these, please subscribe. If you're a first responder or essential personnel, thank you for everything it is that you do. To everybody, please stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a good day.